Hello again with a new video. So the last time we've actually visited what's called the observer pattern, where we um, create an event and subscribe to that event. And for any changes that can happen, we can react to that event accordingly. So in this case, we imported the class, um, the library events. So we created the class, and then we created an instance of that class, and then we created um, the events. So an event of score or miss. So if it's a score, then we will do the following. If it's a miss, we will do the following. This is for the event emitter. And we also looked at the callback promises. So we know, yeah, we on the last time, instead of creating this tree, we went on to create a new promise. Like in this case, a new promise, resolve, reject, and for the resolve, like in this case, we have a new promise. If it's resolved, worked. If it's rejected, just rejects, failed. And then on that promise, this is what happens, and this is the chained promises. So this result gets embedded into this, and this gets embedded into this, and so on. So this creates like the tree kind of structure of promises. The last time we looked at this example where when we run, and yeah, so when we run this one, we'll see that this one finishes first, followed by this, given obviously the time. However, when we display them in an array, we get them displayed sequentially because of how arrays are actually structured. But if we don't output, so the last time this issue was actually, as you can see, promise resolve all my promises. So this is an example of which one finishes first and which one finishes last. As you can see, now for each promise, we will display which one finishes fast and which one finishes last. But because we're displaying all the promises together in an array, the nature of arrays preserves the position to it, uh, preserves the position to which they were uh, added. So in this case, we display the result of this first one, followed by the second one, followed by the third one. So if we try to change the position of this one to here, we will still get the same result as which one is fast and which one is slow, but the array will definitely change. So the B becomes A and the A becomes the B. And we can see this because of the nature of how, as you can see, of how arrays are actually made. So arrays preserve the position. It doesn't mean that the CPU finished this one first or this one or that one. So because this one finishes in 10 milliseconds, this one in a second, this one in 2 seconds, obviously this one finishes before the rest of them. So it's the nature of the array that actually keeps um, uh, the sequence of the promises the way they are now, and it's not about which one is faster and which is slow. So A is not the fastest, given it's the first one in the array. It just means that it's in this position. So it has nothing to do with how fast it's actually executed. So back in the course, there's this example that utilizes promises. So the way these promises were actually used is by using. So there was a real life example where they used URLs to crawl data. So we can take a look at JSON placeholders. We have posts. So this is an endpoint. This is a URL where we can use this JSON. So we can actually use this data as an example. So let's take a look at the site itself. So we have, Okay, so we have the data, in this case fetch. All right, let's try to, okay, let's try to use Google Console. Okay, let's try to do this. Let's try to, I want to know what type. Don't paste into the console, you don't understand. Yeah, and it's a pasting. Okay, so this is actually a promise. So fetch returns a promise. Okay. Okay, so if we do then we can do response console log, and then we're going to do response. So I want to know the type. So you have like a full response. You can do the status, the code, body. Okay. All right. So we can do .json. This is also a promise. Okay. So we can, that's why they ran double lens. Response to JSON, which returns readable stream. Okay, this is the response. JSON. And then in it, okay. So this is the JSON. Okay. And then JSON. Okay. Let me go back here. Let's try. Okay, we know posts, users. So we can do posts on here like we can do users. And we have an array of JSON objects in here. Okay, so let's try to fetch this one with code. So go back promises. All right. Right, so we have, so the data that we retrieve is a type of promise. Let's create the URL itself. This URL equals and we need to fetch URL. But then this returns a promise, a response. returned. To the response, but what we can do is we need to create trend objective type response. Let me do the JSON. See if this would work. Return promise. Now what did we do here in the last example? Fetch response to JSON return the promise. And that promise, the way we the way we did it then, we have in this case the response is to be taken. Let's use it JSON. Let's go for. Let's do this. And defined. So what's the example that we've used here? Run the script. This is what we get. Yeah, it's this. So if we try to run this, we try to run the same URL that we have here, we will get different. Try to do this. Okay. And we know this is the response because of the log. Rejected. Why is this rejected? Okay, let's try to. I'm sure there's probably a mistake in here. So goes a log, then we can get rid of that. And another unfilled, okay. And then got an array of 10 objects, which is right here, which is the users. The JSON. It's actually a promise. So if we try to so what happens here? JSON. So the log. Undefined. Okay. So response to JSON. Okay. So we've got an objective responses. Okay, returned. So maybe we can do this. And then we can get rid of this. turned undefined. But this one here returns like a full promise. Okay, let's try to try to do it here. So the users we have, okay, so we need to get rid of this. So let's do this work. It's undefined. Okay, so let's go back to the logic. So we're fetching a URL, which is a promise, then response by nature that goes with fetch. Okay, I think we need to look at fetch. I think I know what I'm doing wrong here. So if we try to do this, well, this is the beauty of it. This is what should happen. Check this one out. So we have data. We also had this one here. So we had. So this is the promise. Response to JSON. Okay, let's try to do this. But then we're passing whatever we JS console.log JS, right? Yeah, now it makes complete sense. So what happens here, response, so what we can do now instead, we can do something quite interesting. I think I'm getting the hang of this. So when we fetch this URL, and then there's the return of that response gets passed through. So what we can do now is do this. So we can do this. Response to JSON, and then console.log response. This shouldn't return an undefined, but is unusable. Oh, so this can't be done. So we close this one. Yeah, we should do this maybe. Body is unusable. But if we get rid of this, this will work. Yep, it does. So we can't. So it's weird, like a body of code within the response. It's weird. We should be able to do. But I know, like, if we do this, but then JS, and then we do console.log JS, it will give us what we're looking for. So let's do this. So I think I need to fully understand how things actually, I mean, the structure of the promises themselves for proceeding forward. All right, let's take out the promises. Okay, so async actions, so we can have multiple actions on here. So Okay, so immediate logging and a val. Fulfills when all promises are fulfilled. That's why we got the okay. Yeah, when we created these promises, keep the resolve and reject. So for resolve, when I type, wait 1 second and then resolve ready. Resolve worked, reject failed. Okay. So let's check out a few more examples on this one. Callback equals resolve. Put some little cleanup. So it's the it's the chaining of that allows you to create different actions. You can't create a block of action within a dot then. Promise then value. Okay. It's the 1 plus 1. Const success. Resolve value. And then we can do plus. Okay, so we can actually create actions on there. So why, in our case, so why we couldn't do much in here? So we have the response to JSON, because we, oh, okay, I think we then, yeah, what a silly mistake. The reason why we got, oh my God, okay, all right. Okay, so it's the response like that, and then on here we can create whatever actions we want. So we can do like console log hello, and then we can create all that into. Then we will still get the same result. Hello L. Okay. And we just have to do a return in here. So this has to probably be like this. So yeah. So we're actually returning this to the dot then. Okay, I think it's clear. All right, let's move on. Okay, so what we've done so far, all that has been a little confusing when it comes to, the way you would think about it. So let me explain what I mean. So in the terminal, when we run this code again, we'll get the response here, the JSON response. So what we've done was we had this URL that returns a list of JSON objects. So the fetch as we've seen, returns a promise, and so we apply the .then response, and then we pass it through the .json. So this .json is actually passed through here, which is JS here. and then we log the JSON object right here. Now this works, but there's an even better ES8, a better looking approach, which is the async await style. So the purpose of async await async function, uh, which utilizes the await. The purpose of the async function is to allow for a readable code. So the same. So the syntax of this is very simple. So it goes with the keyword async, and then you do a function, and then um, let's go call it fetch URL. Um, yeah, and then the code. Okay, in here, now what we can do. So we have the. So what we can do is use this exact same thing that we've learned here. So the fetch URL returns a promise. So all of this has to return a promise. So fetch URL dot then. So we have the dot then. Okay, I just want to make it clear so that we understand what's really going on. Um, and then I'm gonna go then. So the fetch returns a promise. So the way we can do this is we can do await, and then we can call this, create a constant response that returns a result of the fetch right there. And then, so every return of the promise is, he uses the word await before it. So this one returns a promise, and then we can also create a wait. So we have the response, and then we can call JSON JS equals response um, response and response to JSON. Okay, so we create a wait like so. So okay, so it's constant. So we create a variable that holds the result await of fetch. So fetch await goes before any object that returns a promise. So fetch URL returns a promise. We want to store it in a variable called response, and then we want to pass that response. We want to create constant JS equals await. So it's right here. So let's take this one. Let's pull this one up. So await response.json. Now, then console. Now instead, we will just do console.log JS. Now let's see if this one returns the same results. And then we need to call the function, obviously. So fetch URL. It takes in, so the URL is constant right there. And okay, so let's comment. All right, let's comment this one out first. Let's try to run it. We got the answer. Now let's comment this one out. Oops. Let's comment this one out. What's going on? All right. Yeah. We need to uncomment this one so that it won't. Then we need to comment this one out. And let's see. We still gotten the same, so we have the same result. So the difference between this and this is just the way it's written, but the end result is basically the same. So this one utilizes the fetch and then. This is the promise. This is the original promise dot then style, and this is the async function. So this is kind of more readable, where you kind of create a modular approach to code. So now the fetch, the result of fetch is actually stored in response, and the response is just response.json is stored in the variable JS, whatever the object to create. In this case, when we fetch, we kind of create the .then response.json, and then this one, like in the back of your mind, there is a response to this, which we pass it through to here. So this JS is the response of this right here, response to JS. So this is more like, this is a little confusing. This is where we got confused a little bit earlier. And this is where it makes it smoother to, and then we can do the same here. Like we can try to do the same. So let's do async function fetch URL, it takes in nothing. Now, and the body of the function is as follows. So we kind of create a constant response where it equals await. So this is the result of fetch, and then we will supply in this URL right here. Like so. Okay, so this is the response, the result of fetch. Await, so we wait for the result and store it in constant, and then we JS restore the response to JSON and the variable JS, and then we console.log the results. So this should return the same result as a fetch. So okay, let's try to compare this. So they have this one right here, and then we got the results like so. Then if we just run the function fetch URL, okay. Oh my God, fetch URL. It returned a promise. Why did we return a promise? Okay, so response.js. So the answer is right there, right? Oops, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one. So response is stored in response.js, store.js. Then we just output JS. Why didn't we? Yeah, you see what we've done here, the mistake that we've done. So we didn't actually take the response using the word await. So the await is like the .then. We need to correct ourselves here. So we need to add the keyword await. And now if we try to run fetch URL, we get the same answer. So the keyword that awaits is actually matches the .then. It's like you process this and then give me the answer after you finish processing it. Okay. And the way we catch errors with async functions is by using the try catch block within the function itself. So it's gonna look like this. So try, and then we take everything that we have here, put it inside this block, and then the catch, it takes in error, and then we just display console.log. So this is the way you would want to catch an error. So let's take an example of a function that uses promise and try to change it to a function that utilizes a synchronous function. There is actually an example that uses promise.all. So I'm gonna copy and paste it here, write it again here, and try to do it myself. So in this case, we have one URL. What if we have multiple URLs? Okay. So let's try to do constant URLs would equal an array. an array of URL. So this would be the first URL, and then we will also have another one, which is, I think we have, sorry, we have posts and comments. So it's posts and comments. We have posts, and then we also have comments. Okay, so we want to fetch the data on all of these. Okay, using promise.all, promise values. Okay, we want to fetch. We want to do a fetch on each URL. So URLs dot map, or for each. Okay, let's go for dot map. And then we return a URL, and then we want to do, so for each URL. Okay, so you want to fetch for each URL, yeah? Okay, fetch for each URL. So this is wrong. So for each URL, we want to do a fetch URL, and then dot then response. We want to do a response to JSON, like so. And then we want to have, okay, so this is the bracket for that one. We need to do this. Let me try to fetch to then. Another fetch, another dot then. JS. So we have the JSON, yeah, and then we just do console.log. JS, yeah. Console.log. JS, but in this case we'll have to have, okay. So we have URLs we map, each URL to fetch, response, and then we'll have like an array. We will have an array returned to us. An array returned to us. In this case, we'll just have to do the array, and then console.log will have an array of arrays. Console.log array. Let's just do that. Okay. So hopefully this would work. Let's try to comment this one out. Okay. And console array. So this should work. Okay, so we actually had lots of data. So this is an array right there. Okay, it's still ongoing. Obviously, we had to put all of the different contents right there. Now let's try to convert this one into an async function. So let's try to do. Okay, so it's async function fetch URLs, and then it takes on nothing, and then the body. In the body, we need so each URL. So a promise. So this is actually a promise. So we can go like constant arrays. Arrays would equal to promise.all, and then okay, let's copy and paste this, all of this right here. So this goes like a wait. So this one is stored in arrays. Function URLs. Okay, now this returns, so this is the URL of the maps. Inside of the URLs, we do a fetch. So now this will contain this right here, array. So we can get rid of, let's try to get rid of this. Okay. Okay. And then we can just go console.log arrays. Okay. I think arrays would have 3 arrays in it. Oh yeah, it did. So let's try to use this in the browser right here. So we have the URLs, and then let's try to do the promise and see the results. So we got 10, 100, and obviously the comments, which is a lot. Okay, so we got users, posts, and comments. So what's in comments? This is a 500 comments. Whoa. That's why it's taking really long. So what we can do is like we can get rid of the comments. Okay, and then if we try to run the URLs again, using the promise that we get the 10 and the 100. There you go. If we try to use the async function, fetch URLs, we should be able to get the same results. So fetch URLs. Okay, so we got 2 arrays. One is, okay, so what we can do is we can instead do users. I think it's users, and then we have posts. We can do users and posts. No, just print out users. We should, yeah, sorry. We can do that instead. So we can go an array of users and posts, and then we can do users right there. Okay. Fetch URLs. Yep. So now I think it's about preference of which one to use. We can either use an async function, or we can use so we have different approaches to actually achieving promises, and we can either use promise.then like this, or we can use the async function and assign variables and mess around with the variables. So the async function actually, with the async function requires that we use the word await, obviously, and also we have to keep in mind that with async function, it kind of makes the function look like it's synchronous, but it actually is not. So, all right, so this has been very overwhelming, to be honest. So we will stop here for today, and hopefully we'll be able to continue this as soon as possible.